Liberal MP and former Cabinet Minister Sean Fraser has cancelled his plans to retire from politics. He announced today he will seek re-election in this Nova Scotia riding of Central Nova. Sean Fraser is the Liberal MP for Central Nova. Mr. Fraser, the last time we spoke, you were leaving politics to spend more time with your family. Why the change of heart?
Look, until very recently, I had been very much looking forward to an opportunity to embrace my next chapter of life. I received a phone call yesterday from the Prime Minister who'd asked me, given the economic threat that we're facing in the United States, to step up and serve my community and my country once more. That was certainly a powerful ask, but what really tipped the balance for me was we probably spent close to half an hour on the phone discussing the assurances that we could create a family-friendly environment that would allow me to serve my community without compromising my ability to be a present husband and father. My kids mean everything to me, but this is a moment that requires good people to stand up for Canada, and being able to both engage in my most important job as a dad, but also serve as a member of Parliament for my community is something that I'm very much looking forward to.
This will not come as a surprise to you, I'm sure, but they're already having some fun with you online, saying that the change in the polls and the lure of winning essentially won out for you.
You know what? I think I actually said during my remarks in December that I wanted to run in the election and that I wanted to win in the election. But it was really the several years on the back end of that election that had me concerned for my ability to be home and to be present. A lot of people are going to make a lot of noise, but I know my own motivations, and it's to make sure that we build the kind of community that I want to build, that I want to raise my kids in. A community where people can put food on the table for their families. Dogs don't bark at parked cars. There's excitement going on right now. People make noise. But truth be told, it really was the changing circumstances of the opportunity to be more present, to travel less than has been demanded. Having spent somewhere in the ballpark of 140 nights last year in hotels is not a conducive lifestyle to being a parent. But I have assurances from the Prime Minister that we can change that, and we can create a better environment, frankly, so more young families can step up and serve their community and treat their experience as parents as an asset, not a liability, which is the way it should be.
Fair enough. And you've been looking at the polls, I'm sure. They must have been somewhat of a factor.
You know what? It's the electoral prospects in Central Nova for a Liberal have never been good. When I first ran for office, we were a distant third in the polls. Keep in mind that in my lifetime, there's one person before 2015 who was elected as a Liberal, and I think the one who accomplished that feat before her was born in the 1870s when Brian Mulroney needed a safe Conservative seat to run in when he became the leader. Elmer MacKay stepped aside so Brian could have a safe seat in Pictou County. If you're interested in an easy ride to the House of Commons, running as a Liberal in Pictou County ain't it. This is an opportunity to serve the community that gave me everything. It's an opportunity to demonstrate to my kids that when there are important fights to have, good people need to stand up to bullies down south or in their community. I'm very much looking forward to the fight ahead, but I come in with no assumptions that this is going to be an easy ride. This is a contest that we need to demonstrate to Canadians that we are the party to trust and that Mark Carney is a leader to trust when it comes to handling the immense threat that Donald Trump poses, not just to our national economy, but communities like mine, where a lot of people rely on trade across the border to make sure that they can actually cover the bills.
Okay. For the record, the polls do look good for you in your riding, just so our audience knows that. But there's already a Liberal nominee there, Graham Murray, in your riding. Are you going to be shoving him out? How will that go over?
Look, I've had a conversation with Graham this morning, actually, and he is a tremendous guy. He is with integrity and character engaging in this conversation. I expect that we may see him with the Prime Minister and I later today. He's a terrific guy who grew up in Pictou County, and I want to encourage him to remain engaged. My conversation with the Prime Minister was about my own candidacy, and to the extent that we can keep good people on side. I know that Graham is going to be one of them. Top tier guy, talented as they come, and character to the core.
Just before I leave this point, did Mr. Carney mention a possible cabinet position for you?
The focus of our conversation wasn't on what position I'm going to hold. It was on creating a life balance that would allow me to serve as a member of Parliament. in the party going forward, and hopefully in the government going forward. But the details of any position in cabinet or otherwise are the prerogative of the Prime Minister. I understand he's not in the business of making commitments to anybody, and that's a proper thing. This is about running to represent your community and to stand up for Canada's interests nationally, not about the job the person's going to have in office, but the jobs that their constituents are going to have.
Okay, speaking of your last job, so many issues to talk about already. Housing, an issue in this campaign. Mr. Poilievre today said that you were not effective as a housing minister. The people are still hurting. What do you say to that? And in terms of issues, where does housing fit for you?
Look, housing is a very big deal. We made immense progress when it came to fundamentally changing the way that communities allow homes to be built in this country. We led the largest suite of housing reforms in over half a century with the plan to solve Canada's national housing crisis just last year. Talk to people in the housing space who actually build homes in the market or affordable housing for low-income families, and they welcomed the increased investment in housing, ironically, which Mr. Poilievre has opposed at every turn. He's on record saying that governments should get out of the business of housing. I disagree. Governments need to step up their investments in housing, particularly for low-income families, but to help change the rules at a local level to make it easier for young people to afford rent. He's literally going around Canada promising to cut the funding through the Housing Accelerator Fund and have communities pay back money that's already been committed to help them build more homes. So when it comes to housing, Mr. Poilievre actually has the worst record of any housing minister over the past decade. He had the opportunity to serve shortly before the 2015 election, and it was the lowest level of housing starts that this country has seen since then. So I'll take no lessons from someone whose perspective on housing is that government should cut funding for housing and hope it all works out. We need to step up our investments, build more homes at prices that people can afford, and that's one of the reasons that I have full faith that Mr. Carney is the right person for the job.
Mr. Fraser, so much we could talk about, so little time. Appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sean. Look forward to chatting again.